Welcome to Cash Chats with me, Andy Webb from BeCleverWithYourCash.com. This is the podcast to help you make the most of your money. In episode 351, I'll be giving you an update on the latest Bank of England announcement on the base rate and what that means for your savings and your borrowing. I'll also be talking you through what to do if your parcel doesn't arrive. I'll be sharing some ideas on what you might want to do with any unwanted presents that might come over the coming week. Plus, I'll also give you your rights when it comes to returns. When can you get a refund? All of that, plus my deals of the week. So stay tuned right at the end for that. Anyway, let's get into it. This is episode 351 of Cash Chats. So last Thursday, the Bank of England had the latest announcement for the base rate of interest. Now, I have covered this already in detail on the YouTube channel and over on BeCleverWithYourCash.com. And it was almost a week ago now. So I'm just going to give you kind of the highlights. If you want more information, do check out that other content. But broadly speaking, what happened was the 9 people on the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England, the majority of them decided that the base rate should stay where it was at 5.25%. That's the third meeting in a row where the rate had not changed. That dates back to September. And in fact, so the last increase we had to this current rate was in August. And that was the 14th consecutive increase in a row, dating back all the way 24 months ago to December 2021. So we have had, 2 years effectively of rates getting higher and higher and higher and higher to where we have been, say, since August of the highest rate since 2008. And it's still there. What does this mean in terms of where it might go in 2024? Is it going to stay where it is, which is what the Bank of England sort of said, last meeting in November? It's likely to stay at this rate for nearly close to a year and then still be not too far off that for a good couple of years after that. Or, because things always change between meetings, in the last 6 weeks, has enough happened that we might see perhaps the rate to go down? Or is there still a chance it could go up? Well, it's looking increasingly likely that we are going to see cuts to the base rate next year earlier than expected and more of them than expected. Now, this is from the markets and analysts themselves. Before the announcement, they were thinking there might be 4 cuts, bringing the rate down to around 4% in a year's time. But then after the year, or just before the announcement came out, that was updated to 5 cuts. So they're now thinking it would be 4% in December of 2024. So in a year's time, the rate could be down by as much as 1.25 percentage points, which is quite a lot and much, much more than the Bank of England were saying 6 weeks ago. The markets and analysts are also saying this could happen sooner than they thought. They originally were thinking a couple of weeks ago, maybe around June. Now they're thinking it could happen as soon as May. So that would suggest if these things do come to pass, and if you listen to my updates on these interest rate announcements every 6 weeks when the Bank of England does meet to discuss these things, you'll know that the predictions change all the time. There wasn't that long ago we were saying they're going to go above 6%. Now we're saying they've already peaked at 5.25%. And could be down as 4% in a year's time. But things can and will change. And I obviously always update you when we have this information, on what the latest things are saying to help you kind of inform your decisions right now. Because again, it's all like looking to the future, you don't know, but you can make decisions right now based on this information, particularly when it comes to savings and your borrowing, your mortgages in particular. Let's look at savings first of all. This is obviously not good news. You think keeping it at 5.25% means that rates are going to stay where they are. And that certainly is the case for easy access accounts. We've still got rates of easy access 5.22% from Metro right now, 5.2% from Ulster Bank and a few others there and thereabouts. A couple of banks have slightly reduced their rates just below that, but still a number of places to get more than 5% on your easy access savings at the moment. Now, if we do see a cut in 5 or 6 months' time, then you would expect those easy access accounts to be dropping in accordance with that. They're slow to pass it on, but they'll be fast to take it off. So that is something to think about now. With your easy access rates, you've got all are very interesting now, all are very enticing right now, but that could not last an entire year if we then see subsequent rates cuts coming throughout the year as well. And it might be a good time to think about fixed regular savers. If you are able to save a certain amount every single month, which is why I love regular savers anyway. If you're able to save a fixed amount every month, then and it's a fixed rate. Some of these regular savers are variable. If it's fixed, it's unlikely it won't change. Variables are unlikely to change, but they could. And you're going to lock in a rate of between 5.5% and even 8%, depending on who you go with. Some of them do require you to have current accounts on that money you save each month. So that's not a bad option to be considering right now for the short-term savings. In terms of longer-term savings on the actual fixed rate accounts, as I've told you many times before, over the last couple of months, those rates have been falling down massively in sort of late October, in November, and so far in December, we have seen all of those plummeting. Every day when myself and the team update at becleverwithyourcash.com/savings, our best buy tables, where we write a little note, internal channels like Slack channels, so we sort of, these have changed today, and this has gone, this has gone, this has gone, this is reduced, this is reduced. Whereas before we were going, this has been added, this has gone up, this has gone up. It is complete opposite, so they are really coming down. Same as I said to you 6 weeks ago, if you have got money that you are able to fix, that you would like to fix, then I would do it. Because if you hold off in case of another rate hike, and there still could be a rate hike, although the majority of the Bank of England committee wanted to leave things where they were, 3 of them still wanted an increase. So there might be, all you need is 2 people to change their mind, or inflation not to fall as expected, and there to go up to 5.5%. It could still happen, okay? But everything's looking like it won't happen, looking like rates have peaked, looking like rates are going to fall faster. Therefore, the fixes are anticipating where rates can be in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. They're going to come down, keep coming down based on this information. Absolutely would try and lock anything away that you can lock away and want to lock away at these rates, because, we won't be seeing them. I wouldn't be surprised when it comes to ISA season in late March, early April. I would be very, very surprised to see the fixes and ISAs that we've been seeing, we can get right now, or even, definitely not what we were getting a short while ago. There's always room for competition. There's always room for providers to sort of want to be at the top of the table, and then someone else also wants to be at the top of the table, so they go above that and push things up a little bit. So it might be that we're just going up to Christmas, people are looking at this data and they're like, let's pull things down a little bit. It could well be things do rally a little bit in the new year. But I certainly would think if you wait, chances are you could get less. Now, that's savings anyway. And again, all the updates, we're still going to be updating over Christmas, becleveryourcash.com/savings, apart from obviously weekends and bank holidays, but for all the different top rates there. When it comes to borrowing, particularly when it comes to mortgages, it's probably better news. Not necessarily the fact that it stayed at 5.25%, but certainly this prediction that we're going to see the rates come down sooner and faster than expected, because obviously mortgage rates will be broadly following the base rate. If it's a tracker, they'll be following it spot on. So if you've got a tracker mortgage, you can expect to see, if these things happen, your mortgage payments get less every month if these cuts come along, because they'll just follow it. Variable rates, maybe a little bit. They probably come down a little bit, or they don't have to. Obviously, if you want to fix, nothing's going to change at all until that fix ends. But it should mean there will be, and I have seen this anyway, we've seen them sort of coming down over recent weeks. You should see that the average mortgages start coming down more. Maybe not a significant drop down, but certainly sort of coming back down, meaning when you do have to remortgage, they can be more affordable. Again, as I said, I've covered this in more detail at becleveryourcash.com and in a video on the YouTube channel. So do check those out if you want more information. Okay, let's talk now about parcels. Parcels, lots of different things to talk about with parcels and presents. So I've got 3 sort of different sections here. The first one is around what happens if the parcel doesn't arrive. Hopefully, you've got everything already in the run up to Christmas, because we haven't got much time now. We're less than a week. Hopefully, everything has arrived. But there's a chance you're still waiting on stuff, or do you know what? This is true all year round. Sometimes things just don't appear. Or they say, oh, we've left it in your safe place, or we've given it to a neighbour, or they say they've delivered it to you, and then you find it a few days later in your bin. Once nearly took out a bin with a parcel in it. I suddenly thought, oh, so just check. And I looked, before I put the bin bag in, and there was his parcel at the bottom of those big wheelie bins. But these things can happen. So that's great if you find it in your bin, or it is in your safe place, or it is with your neighbour. But what if it isn't in any of those places? What if it just hasn't arrived at all? What can you do? What are your rights? Well, the first thing to do, the most important thing to say here is your contract for delivery is not with the courier. Unless you've specifically paid the courier and gone to them and asked them to send you something, or it's a personal, sending your stuff. Your contract is with the retailer, the business that sold you that item, or even the individual that sold you that item if you're talking about eBay or other sort of reselling sites. It is up to them to track down that product and get it to you, or send a replacement, or give you a refund. You should not be trying to talk to someone at Every or whoever it might be. Okay, that is not for you to do. They have to sort it out. Just the most important thing to remember. Now, what I would say though is give the benefit of doubt, if you can, a little bit to some of the couriers, because they are under so much pressure. They have these quotas, these targets they have to reach every day, which are absolutely just, they're ridiculous. They really, really are. And I've had it in the past where I've got a message saying, your parcel has been delivered, or it's been put in a safe place, or whatever it might be. And there's nothing there, nothing at all. They even had, and I've seen this, I'm sure some of you guys have had this as well, a photo of something which is not my house. Definitely not my house, definitely nowhere around where I live, but they're saying it's been delivered. Sometimes this is the couriers just sort of ticking it off their things. They meet their quotas and get paid, and they do it later on. I've had them sort of then appear like at 8 o'clock at night, which may be not the most convenient thing, but they have come later on and actually have delivered it. So because I know that I've experienced that, I'll sometimes give a bit of benefit of the doubt before I start chasing it up. But it could still be that isn't the case. It could well be that they just haven't delivered it, or potentially it's been left at your doorstep and someone's nicked it, or they have given it to completely the wrong place or whatever it is, but you haven't got it and you don't know how to get it. As I said, your right is to go back to the retailer. But there is an exception here. That's assuming you haven't given any instructions on what to do if you're not home. If you have said, leave it in my safe place, if you have said, give it to my neighbor, and it's not there, well, it could well be a case of tough luck, because you said that can happen. So I never do this. I never designate a safe place. I never say, maybe I say give it to a particular neighbor if I know they're going to be in. I work from home now, so that hasn't really been so much of an issue. But prior to that, when I was going to the office every day, then I had an elderly neighbor who was always in next door. So I did ask her to collect a fair few things. But be really, really careful about doing that with your orders, because that could come back to bite you. What else to tell you about here? If you have paid, well, I mentioned this last week as well, when we talked about last deliveries, because we are getting to that stage now for Christmas. A lot of the retailers, they're almost too late now to get things sent to you on standard delivery. But if you have paid extra for speedy delivery for a certain day and it doesn't arrive by that time, again, you can ask for that money back, because you paid extra for that. They didn't fulfill that part of the contract. So keep an eye on those things and get in touch with the retailer, ask that money back if that does happen. Also, I'd be very wary of just checking when the parcel arrives. If you're literally there when they hand it to you, or when you find it in the bin or hidden behind the shed or wherever it might be, if it looks damaged, take a photo of it in situ, where it is. Take a photo of the box, exactly how it is. Because again, you might need that as evidence. Say, look, this is how I found the parcel, or this is how it was given to me. Because if you then open it up and the item itself is damaged, that photo is going to be evidence to help you in terms of getting that kind of compensation, getting that refund or that replacement. Now, if you do struggle, and we'll talk about this again in a section in a moment, but there is also an additional, if something doesn't appear and you're getting no joy from the retailers in any way, getting that coming back to you, or you think it's been stolen or it's damaged or whatever these things are, there is another route which take a little bit more time, but that is kind of depending how you paid for the item. And this is if you paid for it via a credit card and it cost more than £100 but less than £30,000, then it'll be protected by Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act. And that means the credit card company is equally liable for refunds as the retailer. So that's a good option you've got there. Obviously, I'd say up to £30,000. I'm not sure we'd ever ask a courier to deliver something that costs £30,000, but it's part of the protection. If it costs less than £100, it could cost more than £100, but you paid by your debit card, or less than £100 and use your debit or credit card. There's something called chargeback. That's slightly different. That is not a law. There's not a legal entitlement to the card provider to compensate you for any sort of losses or damage, but it's worth giving that one a go as well. So hopefully it's not going to be a problem for you, but if that is the case, that's what's to do with missing parcels. Now let's go on from there. Let's talk about refunds, because mention the sort of the credit card companies and debit card companies, there was ways to get money back there. But before you even get to that, there could be a way for you still to get money back on items that you've bought. And particularly now, there's a good chance, I imagine, you've been spending a lot of money over the last month or so, Black Friday sales, stuff for Christmas. A lot of these things, you've got them all, hopefully all the parcels arrived, you've got them all at home. What I want you to do, if you can, is to have a look at all that stuff that you've bought. I would physically get it all out, put it on the table, on the bed or whatever, or just look at your bank statement and see all the things you've been paying, spending money on. And ask yourself a few questions. First of all, ask yourself, can you actually afford all those things that you've bought? Okay. And then ask, do you actually need or want all those things? Because it's very easy to have got caught up in the spending frenzy. And whether that's stuff for you or whether it's gifts for other people, you might have bought too much stuff for people. Actually, do you know what? I bought the wrong gift. I panicked, or I've got more than I actually intended to. I can't afford that. Or equally stuff for yourself. If the answer is no to either of those, then you want to think about taking them back. Equally, another question you can ask yourself on some of those items, I did cover this in the podcast recently, can you get them cheaper now? And if you can get them cheaper, then also you could consider taking back those items you bought and buying them again at the lower price. So what I'm going to take you through are probably what your rights are when you can do this, when you're actually able to return something. And it does depend on how you bought it. Now, if you bought it online, the standard legal rules are you have 14 days from when you received it to notify the retailer that you're going to send it back. And then you've got another 14 days for them to actually receive it themselves. That's the minimum. Obviously could be longer, but that is kind of across the board, unless the item is perishable or has been customized. So again, those items, 14 days, buying something on the Black Friday sales, you may not have got, you might just be there or thereabouts, depending on how fast delivery was. But again, that's the minimum. They might have longer return periods. If you buy it in a shop though, there is no guarantee. Many places will have policies, return policies, and many of them will give you a cash refund. But some of them won't do it at all. They say, no refunds. They don't have to. There's no reason why they have to do it. Or they might say, we give you credit only. Now, it's too late to do anything about that if that's the situation. But if there's something you've got, again, for those reasons, you can't afford it, you can get it cheaper, or you just don't need it, see if you can take it back. They are the general rules. And once more, as with online, that applies for anything as long as it isn't customized or perishable. Now, there is another exception, though, for all of these things. This is about if you've changed your mind. Obviously, you look at these things, you say, I don't want these things anymore for whatever reason. If they are broken, that's a different matter, and you have different statutory rights that apply here. And in fact, there's 30 days for you to take something back if it's no questions asked, right? It doesn't even matter if it's broken or not, but you can take it back and say it's broken. They have to give you the refund if it is damaged. If after 30 days and up to 6 months that is the case, they have to, in the first instance, they have to offer you a repair or a replacement. And if they can't do that, then they have to give you a refund. But again, you don't have to prove anything. You say, look, this is broken, not fit for purpose. Then, I'll repair it or refund it or give you my money back. After 6 months, it gets a lot more difficult, and you have to prove the burden of proof is on you to show that this is like a fault with the manufacturer, and it's been there since the beginning, and that is a lot harder to do. I had that with a pair of trainers where it got to that situation where I'm like, look, this heel, the sole split. I'd worn them like 5 times, but because I hadn't worn them very often, it was during the pandemic actually, so I hadn't been going out as much. They was like, well, it's gone past this period. It's obviously wear and tear. I couldn't, it's impossible for me to prove that wasn't the case. But they are obviously some additional rights that you've got. And then also the ones I mentioned just now, Section 75 and chargeback as well. Go beyond that again if there is something wrong with the item. But again, changing your mind does not apply to Section 75. Changing your mind does not apply to chargeback. And changing your mind does not apply to any of those other kind of rules that we sort of went through right now, the statutory rights. But have a look. See if you can take stuff back. I remember also where we are right now. You might be listening to this later in the year, in 2024 at some point, or even who knows when. Those return windows, though, around Christmas, November, December, they're often extended. They often got a bit more time. So do think back to purchases potentially as early as beginning of December here. You may well have until mid-January to take those back and get the refund on them, as long as you do have the receipt. And just also an additional warning here as well, if you buy anything with a gift card, don't forget that refund will be to a gift card as well, which is why I always suggest when you use a gift card to buy something, it's not for anything there's a chance you might want to take back. So the next thing, leading on from that, is something, again, you've got that you don't want, but it's not something you bought. This is the unwanted present. What do you do if over Christmas this is true for anything else throughout the year, birthdays, any other kind of celebrations, can't think of any other celebrations right now, weddings, anything, right, where you've been given a gift, anniversaries, there you go, there's one. What do you do if the item that you are given, as grateful as you will be, isn't quite right? And let's face it, most of the time there's something like that, isn't it? Hopefully not, though. Hopefully you've been asked what you wanted and you've told people, or potentially they're spot on. They've got your hints. They figured out what you've been after if you haven't explicitly said, and everything's great. But generally there's going to be something that isn't right. And it could be something as simple as the wrong size, particularly when it comes to clothing, or maybe the color or the style isn't quite right for you. Maybe it's a duplicate. You've already got that book, you've already got that game, whatever it might be, or you've just been horribly misjudged and not the right present for you. Well, what do you do? What are your options? Now, depending who gave it to you, and this is never the easiest thing, right? Because most of the time people do put a lot of thought into presents. They're not just getting something, whatever, I'll get that. Most of the time they put thought into it, and it's very difficult not to be hurt when someone says to you, do you know what? Do you mind, have you got a receipt? Do you mind if we take this back but have a gauge on who it is and explain the situation. Try and be honest, because if it is something you've already got, well, you say, look, I really love this, it's a fantastic thing, I've already got it, but do you mind if you've got a receipt, I could swap it for something else, a different thing? Or size. I mean, no one can complain about size. So this is amazing, it doesn't fit, I'd love it, do you mind if we go and change it for another one? Because they might have to actually do that if they haven't given you a gift receipt. Which is why it's always worth asking for a gift receipt itself when you have a present, because that lets the person go and do their own thing without you getting involved. So I would always try and do that, but no, that's not always going to be the easiest thing to do, is it? Sometimes you don't want to broach that with someone. So then what do you do? Well, what I don't want you to do, and please urge you not to do, is just to either leave it in the back of the cupboard gathering dust, because that's a waste of that person's money. They've spent that money and then on you and the time on it, and it's just sitting there, not getting used. And also, please don't throw it away. That's one of my big bugbears with gifts, particularly as we covered a few weeks ago, things like Secret Santa, when often the thing's just quite tokenistic and it's just a bit of junk. Don't do that. Instead, you could do one of these things. So you could obviously give it to a charity shop. Charity shops are always going to be very, 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 very happy to receive an item which is of good quality and that they can sell and make some money for their causes. So potentially you could do that. But I appreciate, particularly how things have been over the last year, you might be thinking, well, I'd love to do that, but I can't really afford to. I need some money. You can obviously look at selling the item online. We mentioned earlier on how if you're a seller with eBay and Vinted and things, you are responsible for that item getting to that person. So bear that in mind. But yeah, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Depop, Twig, all good options to try and sell these things if you've got them, and see if someone will give you some cash for them. I know someone, in fact, it's Erilyn, our social media manager. She sells items on Instagram stories, which is a good thing to try with your friends, but obviously probably not a good idea if you're a present you receive from someone if they're following you, because you don't want them to be sort of like, hey, here's this amazing thing, do you want to buy it? So you could consider selling stuff there. That's always worth giving it a go. Or there is another option, and this is maybe one of the more controversial ones, but this is re-gifting. I wouldn't just say, oh no, I'm not doing that, it's tacky or it's not fair, because if the item you've received is a good present, it's just not a good present for you, then there is absolutely no harm giving that to someone else who you think would appreciate it. It's not just like, oh, right, I'll give that to so-and-so. It's got to be something, I know so they would actually like this. This is great for them. So you've also got to think it through. That could be a great option if there's something coming along, sooner rather than later. Obviously, you could leave it till next Christmas if you wanted to, but obviously the issues of leaving things around too long is, we talked about those consumer rights for returns. If there is something wrong with the item, which you might not be aware of, then obviously a year later on, you give it to someone, it's busted or whatever, then you're not going to be able to take it back. Although, if you didn't buy it in the first place, you wouldn't be able to anyway, would you? But you get my drift. You get what I'm talking about. There are some rules, though, that you have to follow if you are going to regift. And this is my advice to you if you think anything you receive next week at Christmas and you want to regift to someone. First of all, don't open the box. It has to be perfect as new when you give it to somebody else, okay? It can't be, just a bit battered or anything. It has to be perfectly good. You also need to make sure you check for any tags. I have heard stories before where people have given something, a book maybe, they didn't realize there was an inscription inside it. So make sure there's no tags written, attached to it anywhere at all. Also, look for any dates, particularly with food and drink. Chocolates, for example, you might think, I've got too many chocolates, but I can give this to so-and-so because they'll enjoy it, but that's not for 2 months. Just check they're not going to be past their date. Yes, they'll be safe to eat, but it's not a great present to be giving, is it? Out-of-date chocolates. What else? Really important one as well. Make a note. If you've got a number of gifts that you think you might regift throughout the year, make a note of who gave them to you. Because what you do not want to do, one of the worst things you can do, other than sending it on Instagram stories so they can see you're doing it, is to potentially give that gift back to the person in a year's time who gave it to you, or to a close group of friends if you're all together exchanging gifts and you go, hang on, is that what I got you last year? So just make a note so you're aware of who got it for you. But okay, you might not get to that situation at all. Hopefully it's something that's going to be perfect. But again, some top tips there, hopefully, to avoid, because I really hate waste of any kind, but particularly at Christmas, I really hate it when things do end up in the bin or just sitting unused in the back of cupboards for potentially years. Right, let's talk now about deals of the week. A handful of them for you. Christmas veg. Some of the supermarkets are already now reducing to very, very, very low prices some of those kind of core Christmas things you need. So Aldi has got potatoes at 15p, or a bag of carrots at 19p, parsnips, sprouts, cabbage, swede, again, all very, very, very low prices. Sainsbury's will be price matching those Aldi prices, but you do need to use your Nectar card at the till to get those discounts. Lidl also, they have got veg down to 19p. They're the only ones that have got onions currently in the list. I'm sure this will develop. I'm sure we'll see it from Asda and Morrison's and Co as well. We'll have an updated list of that over at becleverwithyourcash.com/deals. What else to share with you? There is a huge amount, obviously, of streaming going on. I talked about it in detail last week on the podcast, so check that one out. The best places and those offers to get your Christmas movies and TV shows across all the different streaming services. But there is a new offer that's come from Now TV for Sky Sports, and it is £21 a month, which is a fair discount on the normal price of 34 quid. This price will last for 6 months, but you can cancel at any time. So you don't have to lock yourself in for that period. You can cancel after a month if you want, but that's a decent discount. You might be able to save a little bit more if you're already with Now TV. Check your emails to see if they've sent you a price for $19.99. So again, it's only a quid a month, but it's worth taking advantage of that offer over the other if you can. If you took a play in the Christmas Advents that I told you about a few weeks ago, there was one from Marks and Spencer. So you open a window every day. The windows were pretty much just discounts for me. They varied for everyone. Everyone got different things. I did get a free pastry, but because I opened it every day, I have now got in my app a free bottle of Christmas liqueur with a light up bottle. So I think a few other people have got the same one, so they might go quite fast, but have a look at your Sparks app to see if you've got that. And there have been some new Advent calendars launched in the last few weeks, running up to Christmas itself. One of them is Nectar. So if you've got the Nectar app, just go in there, open the window each day. It's a competition each day, but it takes 10 seconds. You never know, you might win a lot of Nectar points. So far, I haven't won anything, but give it a go. Why not? And the last one to tell you about here is a little bit different. And this is a new, well, it's not a new deal. It's one that's now open to all customers. Previously, it was just existing customers from E.ON. So it's an energy company. This is a reduction on your gas and electricity bills. And this is a tracker. So it's not a fix in the way that we were used to previously, where you would, a fixed price would come in and you'll be locked onto that. This is a tracker, which means it will be at roughly 3% below what the price cap is. So when the price cap changes, which it does every 3 months, so we know a new price cap is coming in from 1st of January, there'll be another one from the 1st of April, another one from the 1st of June, and another one next year on the 1st of October. This will be 3% below that. So it will always, if price cap goes up, it will go up. If it goes down, it goes down. It looks like, roughly speaking, this is some analysis from Money Saving Expert, that the average household will save about 50 quid a year with this. There are exit penalties you need to be aware of if you want to leave this tariff before 12 months are up. And I think it's £25 per fuel, so 50 quid in total. But it's a way of saving yourself not a huge amount of cash, we're saying, but again, a little bit of cash. And it's open to new customers now to switch over to. That's with Eon. There you go. This is the last one before Christmas. So have a very, very, very Merry Christmas. I will be back with another podcast, though, on Boxing Day, hopefully. So if you are sitting around at home, a bit bored, or a bit sort of suffering from the indulgences of the day before, then obviously do check your podcasting app so you can listen along. As ever, my name is Andy Webb. This is Cash Chats. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, cheers.